Good evening. I'm Teresa Skubik, and this is Forum Daily for Thursday, December 19th. The leader of the federal NDP began the year propping up the minority Liberal government, but is ending 2024 by calling for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign. In a year-end interview with the Canadian press, Jagmeet Singh laid out his vision for the 2025 election as being a battle between his party and the Conservatives. When exactly that election happens could depend on whether Mr. Singh joins Tory leader Pierre Poilievre to defeat the Liberals. Mr. Singh would only say that all options remain on the table for handling confidence votes. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has canceled his year-end interviews with news outlets. This comes after Monday's surprise resignation announcement from Chrystia Freeland, who said she would be stepping down as finance minister. Mr. Trudeau has yet to publicly discuss Ms. Freeland's departure. A Liberal source has confirmed to the Canadian press that the Prime Minister is reflecting with his inner circle on what to do next, as calls for him to resign have ramped up in the aftermath of Ms. Freeland's resignation. Jewish leaders are calling on Montreal residents to denounce attacks against Jews after a reported firebombing of a synagogue. It happened in a suburb early Wednesday morning at the congregation Beth Tikva and across the street at the offices of a Jewish community group that had a window and glass door smashed. It's the second time in 13 months that both buildings have been targeted. Michael Levitt from the Friends of the Simon Wiesenthal Center for Holocaust Studies says, quote, "Such attacks cannot be ignored or dismissed as isolated incidents, nor can we allow these attacks to become the new normal." Human Rights Watch has accused Israel of causing the deaths of thousands of Palestinians by systemically restricting and targeting Gaza's water supply and infrastructure in a campaign that amounted to acts of genocide. The group alleged that countless infants, children, and adults have died from malnutrition, dehydration, and illness as a result of actions by Israeli authorities over 14 months of war. Israel denies the allegations, saying its war is directed at Hamas militants and not Gaza civilians. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister refuted the claims this morning.
On water, Hamas actually dug up the water pipes to use as rockets against us. Israel has repaired water infrastructure. That means 4 water pipelines and water pumping and desalination plant Israel has defended and kept open. Water tankers have been delivered repeatedly by our international partners through Israeli crossings. I report on these myself every single day. Hamas systematically attacks and loots that aid. If you want Israel's reply to this report, I'll give it to you. It's a report full of lies, appalling by Human Rights Watch's standards. It's a race to the bottom between Amnesty and Human Rights Watch for who can defame Israel more.
Palestinian medical officials say Israeli forces have fired directly at an intensive care unit of a hospital in northern Gaza. Officials at the hospital say the attack knocked the last ICU in the north out of service and killed at least 8 people in nearby buildings. Medical staff had to rush patients out of the ICU after Israeli tank shellings caused fires, with some medics putting out the flames with their bare hands. The facility's director says that it's incomprehensible why they are being targeted in such a brutal way. The Israeli military says that it's unaware of any strike or shooting towards the ICU. And the Israeli military has confirmed that it hit the capital of Yemen and another city with a series of airstrikes that have killed at least 9 people.
Today, the IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructures in Sana'a, which the Houthis have been using in ways that effectively contributed to their military actions. Israel will not hesitate to act in order to defend itself and its citizens from the Houthis' attacks.
An Israeli military statement offered no details on the targets hit, only saying that they were used by Houthi rebels for military purposes, including port and energy infrastructure. Houthis have controlled Yemen's capital of Sana'a for a decade and also controlled the city of Hodeidah. The Israeli airstrike comes after the Houthis targeted central Israel with a missile. All right, stay with us. Up next, Vladimir Putin challenges Western experts to a high-tech duel. And a researcher reports that North Korea has the capacity to build missiles for Russia to use against Ukraine. And a campaign has been launched in BC to try and discourage people from moving to Alberta. After that, we'll have our weekly medical segment where Dr. Rout and I will be unpacking ways to stay safe and healthy this holiday season. Stay with us. We'll have these news stories and more right after the break. Russian President Vladimir Putin has challenged Western experts to a high-tech duel.
So if the experts in the West think so, well, let them come up with a proposal to us and to the US. They can suggest kind of a technological experiment, kind of a high-tech fighting duel of the 21st century. They can designate a target, say in Kiev. They can concentrate all of their air defense and anti-missile defense there, and we will strike it with a Reshnik, and we'll see what's going to happen. We are willing to conduct such an experiment. What about the other side? Are they ready?
And following Mr. Putin's remarks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded to the high-tech duel using some choice words.
Да, Путін сказав, що технологічно дуель каже, що ми вдаримо, наприклад, кудись по Києву, а вони нехай поставлять проти Орешникам цієї нової ракети, а вони нехай поставлять протиповітряну оборону. Ну і подивимось, що буде. Ну, ви вважаєте, що це адекватна людина? Просто відморозки.
The United Nations Security Council heard today from a researcher who says North Korea has the capacity to produce ballistic missiles for Russia to use against Ukraine in a matter of months.
In January 2024, a Carfield investigation team physically documented the remains of a ballistic missile that struck Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, on 2 January 2024. CAR documented the missile's rocket motor, its tail section, and almost 300 internal components manufactured by 26 companies from 8 countries and territories. Based on several unique features observed during the documentation, we determined that this missile was of the Hwasong 11 family manufactured in the DPRK in 2023. In the days following this initial documentation, our teams inspected 3 further identical DPRK missiles that struck Kyiv and Zaporizhia.
Jonah Leff is the head of the research organization Conflict Armament Research, which traces weapons used in the war. He says researchers examined remains of 4 missiles from North Korea that were recovered in Ukraine in July and August, including one that had marks to show it was produced this year. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un reportedly told Russia's defense chief last month that his country would invariably support Russia's war in Ukraine. An organization that works to document what happened at a notorious residential school says it's at risk of going bankrupt by the end of the month. The Survivor Secretariat says that's unless Canada makes a decision on whether it will fund the group's work. The organization works to uncover the truth about what happened at the Mohawk Institute, which operated in Ontario. It says that the Ministry of Crown Indigenous Relations is letting down survivors with the delays in processing its applications. A campaign has been launched in BC in an effort to discourage people from moving to Alberta. The Business Council of British Columbia launched Stay with BC, an awareness campaign urging residents to think twice before moving to Alberta for economic or other reasons. Council President Laura Jones says it was inspired by the 2022 launch of the Alberta is Calling campaign, targeting skilled workers in other provinces with financial incentives and promises of increased affordability and a comparable lifestyle. Statistics Canada data from April says that BC lost more people than it gained to interprovincial migration last year for the first time in more than a decade. In a video address this morning, Ontario Premier Doug Ford called on all Ontarians to support local businesses this holiday season.
Hi everyone. This holiday season, I want to encourage you to shop local and support small businesses in your community. From sweet treats to unique goods and services, there's truly something for everyone. Today, I'm excited to showcase some of the amazing offerings from our local businesses in my hometown, the great state of Etobicoke.
The call to shop local comes on the heels of a media blitz by the premier, where he was featured on several U.S. TV networks, highlighting the importance of Canada's trade relationship with the U.S. and calling for both Canada and the U.S. to counter China. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll have our weekly medical segment up next, where Dr. Abhishek Raut will be sharing some healthy tips on how to survive and thrive through the holiday season. After that, an update on the suspect who killed United Healthcare's CEO. Stay with us. Forum Daily will be right back after these messages. Whether it's overeating, catching an illness, or feeling stress or sheer exhaustion, a busy calendar of holiday festivities can take a toll on your health. Between work and friends and family festivities, it's no surprise we often find our health, both physical and mental, left waiting in the wings until New Year's Day. I'm now joined by Dr. Abhishek Raut, Medical Director at Appletree Medical Group, to discuss healthy tips to help you power through the holidays. Dr. Raut, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the first thing lots of people worry about over the holiday break is the flu and not being that family member who gives it to everyone. Now, how can people protect themselves from catching colds or other illnesses over the busy holiday season and also not giving it to their family members?
Right. So illnesses abound, especially in the holiday season. We are going to see increases in flu, COVID, norovirus, and colds in general. So getting vaccinated for the ones that we can get vaccinated for is still one of the number one best ways to deal with this. What we can say is that for flu-related hospitalizations, we can decrease those hospitalizations by 40 to 60% if we get the vaccine. Practicing good hand hygiene is also essential here. And I don't mean just putting your hands in water and then releasing it. What we're talking about is 20 seconds in water in order to wash your hands properly. Doing that can reduce the spread of respiratory illnesses by up to 21%. And finally, staying home if you're sick. Oftentimes, I don't want to see these people anyway. And so being sick is a convenient excuse anyway. So stay at home. You're not going to spread too much in this case.
Now, the holidays also lead to overeating, be it too many Christmas cookies or countless family dinners. What are healthy things people can do to prevent overdoing it, but still getting to enjoy all the sweets and treats?
Right. So this is a big concern for us in Canada. Public Health Agency reports that about 64% of Canadians are overweight or obese, myself included. And so really what we want to look at is practicing portion control. Looking at your favorite holiday treats, but really taking it in small portions and eating mindfully there as well. What a lot of people will do is they will balance their treats with healthy foods. So if you're going to have something that you really, really like, you're going to use vegetables and fruits for your next bite. And go so on and so forth so that you can have a healthy and balanced meal. And finally, just staying physically active on those downtimes as well, just understanding you are going to have more calories in the holiday season, so you're going to also need to exercise more during that time.
Now, drinking and the holidays tend to go hand in hand. What are ways that you can enjoy some eggnogs while assuring that you are remaining hydrated and not overdoing it?
That's an excellent question there. So I think what we do find is people who are successful at this tend to be able to alternate the alcohol with water or with a non-alcoholic beverage, which is not overly sweet. So a lot of people will have their eggnog or an alcoholic beverage, and then their next drink is going to be just water. And that alternating is really helpful for your body because it does allow it to recover and it allows your kidneys to do their job very well as well.
And for some, social environments can cause a bit of anxiety, and no one wants to be that person at the party who sits out. But how important is it to put your mental health first while also enjoying the moment?
I think this is very important. I think what we should be doing for the holidays is certainly normalizing this, setting realistic expectations that we all have limits and holidays are extremely stressful for a lot of people. So if you don't have to stay for the entire event, don't. Just set some realistic expectations for yourself where you're going to at least have some pleasure with meeting people. And then the moment that that's not the case, you can step away. Oftentimes, the best memories I've had during the holiday seasons have actually been with small groups of friends, maybe one or two other people. So going to big events, which can be quite stressful, aren't necessarily the best things for our mental health. So certainly practicing that self-care is essential to make sure that we have a successful holiday season.
Now, there's usually that one family member who hosts the Christmas dinner or the New Year's party. So what are ways people can host their extravagant parties in a healthy way and avoid burnout?
I think what we've found that's been very helpful is hosting a potluck, and in which case you identify in advance healthy and non-healthy meals and asking people to do things that might be more healthy, perhaps more plant-based, because we know there might be a turkey or something like that in present. And so having that balance already in place is very helpful because people then know that they need to be mindful of healthy appetites and healthy balances in their food and as well in the holiday season.
Now, we do just have under a minute, but if someone is feeling run down or burnt out, what are things that they should do to recharge before the new year kicks off?
I think that's a great question. What we would want to do is make sure everyone does have that support system. So certainly identify a friend or a family member who understands you and understands the anxiety that can come during these seasons as well. Make sure you're able to take those breaks with that person or just in less stressful, less stimulating environments there. And of course, practicing that self-care. So that means exercise, meditation, or even a small walk can be very helpful in making you feel grounded and really better prepared to handle all of those social situations as well.
Dr. Rout, thank you so much and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Incoming U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to kill a bipartisan deal that was made in an effort to avoid a government shutdown on Friday, and the House Democrat leader is sounding the alarm.
House Republicans have now unilaterally decided to break a bipartisan agreement that they made. House Republicans have been ordered to shut down the government and hurt everyday Americans all across this country. House Republicans will now own any harm that is visited upon the American people that results from a government shutdown or worse.
This comes after Elon Musk started actively lobbying against the 1,500-page bill on his X social media platform after its release on Tuesday night. Mr. Trump is calling the bill a betrayal of our country, as Mr. Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy spent Wednesday attacking it as being full of excessive spending. Mr. Musk and Mr. Ramaswamy have been picked by Mr. Trump to lead a temporary agency focused on cutting government spending. The U.S. Federal Reserve has cut its key interest rate by a quarter point, its third cut this year.
Today was a closer call, but we decided it was the right call because we thought it was the best decision to foster achievement of both of our goals, maximum employment and price stability. We see the risks as two-sided, moving too slowly and needlessly undermine economic activity in the labor market, or move too quickly and needlessly undermine our progress on inflation. So we're trying to steer between those two risks. And on balance, we decided to go ahead with a further cut, and I'll give you some details on why. Downside risks to the labor market do appear to have diminished, but the labor market is now looser than pre-pandemic, and it's clearly still cooling further, so far in a gradual and orderly way. We don't think we need further cooling in the labor market to get inflation down to 2%.
But it's also suggesting it'll cut its benchmark rate by a quarter point just twice next year, down from its estimate in September of 4 rate cuts. Its new projections suggest that consumers might not enjoy much lower rates next year for mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. The suspect in the killing of United Healthcare CEO is being returned to New York to face murder charges after agreeing to be extradited on Thursday during a court appearance in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested last week after 5 days on the run. Luigi Maggioni waived his right to an extradition hearing and was immediately turned over to at least a dozen New York Police Department officers who were in the courtroom. Mr. Mangione was immediately ushered out of the courthouse while surrounded by police. He glanced side to side but stepped quietly into a black SUV, contrasting his last court appearance when he struggled with deputies and shouted at reporters. A Hockey Canada report says that officials are calling more penalties on discriminatory taunts, insults, and intimidation on the ice. The national governing body of hockey says that penalties called under its discrimination rule increased 41% during the 2023 to 2024 season. Sex, sexual orientation, and gender-based slurs were the most common types of witnessed penalties, resulting in suspensions. Racial slurs were the second most common type of reported discrimination. The Canadian men's soccer team is finishing the year in 31st place in the FIFA World Rankings. The last ranking for 2024 came out with Canada unchanged at a career high spot. World Cup champion Argentina continues at number 1, followed by France, Spain, England, and Brazil. Canada ranked 3rd in CONCACAF, which covers North and Central America and the Caribbean, behind the 16th ranked U.S. and the 19th ranked Mexico. Canada Post continues to work through the backlog of mail stuck in the system during a month-long strike by thousands of postal workers. The post office says it will begin accepting commercial letters and parcels today as it works to get back to normal operations. It will start accepting new international mail on Monday. A federal labor board ordered workers back to work earlier this week and tapped an inquiry commission to spend a few months working on recommendations for the two sides to reach a contract agreement. And kids concerned that Santa Claus won't get their letters in time for Christmas can quit their worrying this year. Canada Post says the Santa Letters program is back on after a month-long strike for more than 55,000 postal workers. It says all letters with the iconic HOHOHO postal code that are mailed by December 23rd will be delivered, but Santa won't be able to respond to all of them this year. I'm Teresa Skubik, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Remember, for more news on demand, you can always visit our website at thenewsforum.ca and make sure to follow us on social media. You can also watch all of our commentary programming on the Newsforum YouTube channel. Good night, Canada.